Okay gamers, class is in session, and before you detectives go down into the comments and ask what the Fall of Cybertron video is, if you really want to know, watch to the end, because I'm going to talk about it then, because then the video is going to be over 10 minutes. There's 3 things I like in life: men, butterfingers, and emotionless villains who just pulverise the competition. And that's why today we're going to be talking about Shockwave, who is the best Transformers character. He's up there with Warpath, Six Shot, and Cyclonus. Now, I'm not biased because Shockwave is a Cyclops, and if you say I am in the comments, you'll be blacklisted and sent to the same pit where they sent Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight Rises. Shockwave is one of the most fascinating and coolest Transformers characters, either it be from his ruthlessness or his emotionless badassness. Shockwave is a Decepticon scientist and is one of the few Transformers who gets left behind on Cybertron and is one of the most loyal Decepticons. He's also characterised by his desire to perform exploratory surgeries, like transforming the Lightning Strike Coalition into the Dinobots. We also get to see how he's willing to clone other Decepticons like Soundwave, who he cloned to create Sound Blast, or sorting through Ultra Magnus's corpse in Netflix's Cybertron trilogy. He even manages to control the Insecticons in the Cybertron games, and from audio logs we learn they attack either other Decepticons or themselves.
I've had just about enough of these Insecticons. Shockwave thinks of them as his pets, and he may believe he controls them, but truth be told, they do whatever they want on the battlefield. And I may have to work alongside them, but I don't like it. They're cannibalistic. One of them goes down, another will devour it, feed on its energy. I had a friendly fire incident a couple cycles back. One of those oil holes slammed right into me, about busted my armor. So let's just say I put his assets in stasis. Shockwave should really find himself some new pets.
And I'm going to point out how ironic Shockwave's vehicle form is. Now, for the Decepticon scientist, what would you think his vehicle form is? A microscope like Perceptor, or a race car like Wheeljack? No, the Decepticon scientist turns into a tank, or a straight up gun. Sometimes he does turn into a jet, but remember, he's backing a cannon the size of Africa on his arm. Shockwave's even able to break the laws of life and is able to bring back Cybertronian dinosaurs. John Hammond would be so proud. So let's talk about a few iterations of Shockwave and pick which is the best one. Generation 1 Shockwave is a rollercoaster of a character, whether it be from his first comics appearance where he just wipes the floor with everyone, or the fact that in a lot of his appearances he stumbles around and eventually gets shot at. Shockwave in G1 goes toe-to-toe with an out-of-control Bruticus, and even manages to hold his own. He also creates a space bridge technology, and is the only one Megatron trusts to look after Cybertron when they chase down the Ark. Not to mention, he's able to keep the remaining Autobots down and builds a robot army to keep control, and he's got the balls to fight Unicron, which pretty goes well. He also hunts down the female Autobots and can straight up shoot cars into the Shadow Zone, but it's in his first comic appearance where he's most Chad-like, as whenever he appears in the comics, shit goes down, as he only serves logic, and logic says he should lead the Decepticons, while in G1, he pretty much runs back to Megatron whenever given the chance, but in the comic books, he will kill Megatron whenever given the chance. But due to regulations at the time, Shockwave was never able to feel like a scary villain, as whenever he does appear, he's always beaten or just gets tripped up. Shockwave never feels like a real threat. Sure, in the comics, he actually is a threat, but in Generation 1's cartoon, he's a bit of a clown. But I can't talk in depth about his comic book appearances because we're only talking about his on-screen appearances, so let's move on to... Shockwave's appearance in Transformers Animated is that of a spy, as he spends most of his time as the show's double agent. In the show, he goes by the name Long Arm Prime, and we see how he meets Bumblebee and Bulkhead in Autobot Boot Camp, and how he's framed another Autobot called Wasp for being a spy instead of him, allowing him to go years without being detected, and when he is, he kills the Autobot leader Ultra Magnus, and steals Arcee from her nursing home, then goes to Megatron on Earth's moon, helps build 3 Omega Supremes, and then uses the codes from Arcee, which is said to be impossible to retrieve, to activate them. He's also said to be Megatron's most loyal follower, a title which would normally go to Soundwave, but Soundwave is a toy in this universe. Shockwave is able to hide his allegiance from the Autobots for years, even rises to the rank of head of Autobot intelligence, and when he's finally caught out, the only Autobot on Cybertron who knows he ruthlessly murders and then sends him to the incinerator, and nobody notices. Not to mention Shockwave is a skilled fighter, as he's able to go toe-to-toe with Bulkhead and Bumblebee, who do still beat him, but he is able to hold his own. And when he does try to beat someone, he even manipulates them or uses traps like setting up the turrets with live ammo, or manipulating Bumblebee into selling out Wasp. This is one of Shockwave's better appearances, but in his next appearance, he's just abysmal.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What?
Dark of the Moon Shockwave is an assassin, and we see from the tie-in game Dark of the Moon, which I covered on the channel, should go watch, that he is frozen on Earth from his pet worm, and we see how he gets the worm in the tie-in comic book Transformers Foundation. Shockwave is hyped up so much in the game because Optimus says it's vital that he stays in stasis and he cannot get out, but when he breaks out, Optimus says his armor is too thick to be damaged. Yet in the film, Shockwave is taken down by parachutes, human bullets, and a singular punch. Now, Optimus does equip a knuckle duster, so perhaps he learned from his mistakes in the game and prepared for a later fight with Shockwave. And when Optimus does face Shockwave in the films, the first thing he does is equip a shield and sword in their first encounter to protect the humans, and does genuinely seem to take Shockwave as more of a threat. And Shockwave responds by instantly leaving, and in fact his worm does more damage. How? His animalistic worm does more damage than the Decepticon assassin, and Optimus has more trouble taking out the worm. In fact, Soundwave in the film does more damage than Shockwave, and he's the head of Decepticon intelligence. He straight up executes people while Shockwave plays with a cloth. The most damage Shockwave does in the entire movie is when Optimus uses his dead body to shoot down the pillars. Now, I know the Cybertron games are set in the same universe as Transformers Prime, but the line between the games and the TV show is so thin that I'm just going to class these two as different, and if you disagree, leave now. The Shockwave in the games is a menace, as this is where he shows some aspects of his comic book self, as his emotionless self really shows as we see the horrors he has caused. For example, when walking through his lab as Grimlock, we can see how he emotionally tears his own troops apart to see how they work. He even manages to gain control of the Insecticons, and look what they did to Sludge.
His team? Why would he be down there?
Not sure if he had a choice.
Why?
Call it a hunch. Cliff jumper. I found Sludge.
Is he functional?
He pretty messed up in a stasis lock. Might be enough energon left to tap his memory core. Bingo!
Stop your whining, Sludge. This took us by surprise. Grimlock, we need to call for backup. There is no backup, Slug. Phyllis doesn't even know we're here. They're back! And coming in fast! There's too many of them! Stand and fight!
Cliff jumper, you catch any of that?
You mean the screaming? The horror? Followed by more screaming?
Yeah, that'd be it.
They tear him apart, and Shockwave changes the way Grimlock thinks, and when his ego is tilted by Megatron's new body, he just makes a new gun that's more powerful than Megatron.
Shockwave's log. Inspired by my enhancements on the Autobots, I have decided to create a few upgrades for my personal arsenal. When finished, this gun could generate power to rival even Megatron's.
And when most of the energon supply on the planet has been drained, instead of sharing it, he hoards it to power a space bridge he's obsessed with working over and perfecting. He even manages to override Grimlock's own programming, and when faced with death, he just tells Grimlock to sit like a pet.
Shockwave, you're finished!
You didn't think I'd build something so powerful such as you, and not have a way to control it. Now, sit there like a good pet while I finish my work. Megatron, I have successfully opened a bridge to the target world. The portal is stable and ready for you.
Excellent, Shockwave. Triptychon's conversion into the Nemesis spaceship is now complete. We will be launching for the
No one controls Grimlock!
Impossible.
He is a truly emotionless incarnation, and we see that his own troops get eaten by other Insecticons. He doesn't care, however, and when Starscream, who is the current leader of the Decepticons, tells him to focus on getting the Energon, he tells him to shove it, and we see that other Decepticons are mildly terrified of disappointing Shockwave.
They're on the hunt, all right.
Keep looking! Can't hide forever! Sweep the area! Shockwave will be greatly displeased if we don't find those Autobots!
I'll be none too happy if you do.
His intelligence is unrivaled in the games, and it's the same for Shockwave in Transformers Prime is an absolute menace. He's built like a tank, which, oh wait, he is a tank. He's smart and he knows it, and when he needs help he takes it. He's even caused for jealousy amongst the Decepticon ranks, as he's made presence cause Knockout and Starscream to start a zombie apocalypse. His work with genetics is so good he created a race of Predacon clones twice, and they were so powerful that they had Megatron worried. He's a survivor, and when left blinded on Cybertron, he simply grew a pair and survived. He repaired his eye, and he's taken on Autobots head on, and he seems to be more combat ready than Shockwaves of the past. He follows both logic and loyalty to Megatron. He even seems to show a small amount of emotion, for example when he stops Starscream from getting himself killed when Megatron is taken offline.
You master!
Starscream, do not be a fool.
Curse you on your logic!
We see this when the war is lost, and instead of giving up, he attempts to build an army of Predacons to eventually overthrow the Autobots and bring around Megatron's dream. Shockwave in Bumblebee is more menacing than his counterpart Kindar of the Moon, and he only has one line of dialogue.
Destroy the launch pad! Let none escape!
Now, he could have said don't let them escape, but no, he chooses to say let none escape. He isn't talking about them as if they were worthy rivals, but if they were rats or insects to him, he's cold when giving the orders and expects them to be destroyed. Shockwave in Netflix's trilogy is one of the worst of the lot. Not in the sense that he's bad, I mean he's a menace. Unlike the other Shockwaves who suck up to Megatron, this Shockwave is more than willing to go behind Megatron's back. We get a hint of this when he asks Shockwave if he's got any more secret experiments. This Shockwave is beyond emotionless because we can see that all the bold and evil things that the Decepticons are responsible for is because of Shockwave. Either it be from draining his troops' sparks so they can build a ship, or from secretly cloning Soundwave and then allowing the clone to go completely insane. And he goes rooting around in a dead Ultra Magnus's head, and to get the information they need. He also then just straight up destroys all the underground wires on the planet. He also came up with a plan to use the Allspark to end all the Autobot lives. He isn't afraid of Megatron and will pester him for an answer on things like mass cullings or their own people. And once the Decepticons leave Cybertron, Shockwave becomes more of a ruthless leader than Megatron as he cannibalizes the weak to keep him both alive and his experiments alive. As we see, even though Energon is scarce, he is more than willing to improve himself, and if it costs others their sparks, he isn't bothered. Out of all the iterations of Shockwave, this one is a true monster. So, class, to conclude, we can place Dark Killer Moon in dead last, then Bumblebee because he legit has only one line of dialogue, then Generation 1 Shockwave because he's a kind of a goofball. You know, he's a bit goofy, he's a bit jokey. Then we can put Animated's character in because he is a jokey character. We get this when we see him laugh at others' downfalls, or the fact that it's animated. Everything's a bit jokey and animated. Prime Shockwave comes in next because he's thick. And then because both of them are monsters, we can put Siege's and Fall of Cybertron Shockwaves on the same tier. My reason for this is because Fall of Cybertron is an amazing game, and Siege Shockwave is a legit monster. Now, the part you've all waited for. The Fall of Cybertron video should be next, it's just the script is 11 pages long and I'm only on chapter 2. And I didn't want to leave you all starved for content, so you might as well get these shorter videos in between the big ones being made. So, with me wasting more of your time, till next time.